She is one of the OGs at MuchMusic. She's written songs, books, and created the Yummy Mummy Club, but her passion is giving back. May is the month of caregiver awareness, and we are here to celebrate caregivers with kind acts. Welcome to My Kind Canadian and OBO Ambassador. It's Erica M. Hi
I'm
there.
so happy to be here. Thank you for inviting me on your podcast.
So I watched the Undercover Project yesterday, and I was ugly crying. It was so beautiful. And what I was taken back by was Marissa, the mom, and how surprised she was that someone wanted to do something nice for her. She almost felt like she didn't deserve it. And then as the process went on, she was so, so grateful and so
Mhm.
emotional. And it really resonated with me. Speak to me about caregivers and the Undercover Kindness Project.
Yeah, I'm glad you threw in the word kindness. It was sort of ironic. You were calling it the Undercover Project. And I was like,
Oh,
no, it's kindness. It's
that
only
sounds like a
about
different show
kindness.
altogether,
And
right?
it's so funny because your whole vibe is about kindness. And so is my life. I try and live my life with kindness. And when I heard about this Undercover Kindness Project, actually, it wasn't even named at that point. There was um, there was a team of people who are working with the Ontario Caregiver Organization, and they wanted to bring to light the challenges that caregivers have, in being, I don't want to use the word saddled because many people do not feel saddled, but there is a weight, there is a heaviness
Heavy,
and
heavy weight.
responsibility taking care of a loved one, be it family or friend. And so they were trying to come up with a fun way of bringing that to life. And so I was at a dinner party with a friend of mine, and I was sharing the story about when my mother became very ill, and I became her caregiver along with my sister. And we shared our story, both the highs and the lows of it. And my friend said to me, we are trying to tell this story on a larger scale. Would you be interested in participating?
Oh,
And so I was very happy to be one of the people who helped develop this idea. And now let me tell you what the Undercover Kindness Project is. Essentially, we invite friends of caregivers to nominate the caregiver in their life, people who have been very selflessly taking care of family or friend member. And we come up with a surprise
mm,
to make the caregiver's life just a little bit easier. When you talked about Marissa and
yeah.
Vanessa, her granddaughter, Vanessa was the granddaughter who nominated her mom, who was the main caregiver for her mom,
Right.
Nona, the grandmother. And so the surprise that we came up with was to show up at Vanessa's door with a team of people who could help rebuild the greenhouse in the backyard that Nona's husband
No,
had
no.
built. No, had built for Nona. Nona
Oh,
loves puttering in her
oh,
greenhouse. And by fixing up this greenhouse, it gave solace to Vanessa to begin with to know that her mom could be safe
in that
in the
little.
greenhouse so that Vanessa could have some time to herself. And for 2 days, the team put together the fixes required to make it
Mm.
safer for Nona. And then we surprised Vanessa with it. And there were tears
Ah,
by all. But, the story here is these people who are caregivers do not ask for help. And
right.
that's the point that you saw in the video that was shown to you, where Vanessa was sort of got a little bit, I don't know, very emotional about the fact that she is uncomfortable asking her family or friends for help, even though she has a full-time job.
Oh,
She
wow.
also, and she's a grandmother, so she takes care of her daughter and her grandkids. They don't need help, but she wants to help, and she helps her mom. Now, I am sure that people listening to this go, "Well, that's me. I'm taking care of someone, I'm in the sandwich generation.
Right.
A caregiver is not someone who is necessarily taking care of someone with a deathly illness. It's someone who has to take care of someone, basically. And a lot of people that I've spoken to since getting involved with the Ontario Caregiver Organization do not even think of themselves as caregivers, but
Right.
they are.
They
And
just
so
think this is their job. There's something that they have to do.
it's a responsibility, it's a duty that they are proud of and happy to do for the people that they love in their lives. The question that I have that I'm going to throw to you and to the people who are listening is, who is caring for the caregivers who
Exactly.
do not ask for help? There's research done by the Ontario Caregiver Organization, and like 80% of caregivers will not ask for help for a
Wow.
couple of reasons. Number one, they don't want to impose on
Right.
someone. Some of them have asked for help in the past and they haven't had a very good response. So they kind of got turned off. And a lot of them are embarrassed to say that they need help. And
Right.
so it is incumbent upon those of us around these caregivers to notice and to
Mhm.
show up with random acts of kindness. And they could be small. Bring someone a coffee. Say, hey, can I pick up some groceries for you? Can I do your gardening for you? Hey, do you want to use my driveway? I'm your next door neighbor. I see that you're hosting a lot of guests. Would you like to use my driveway? It's these little kindnesses that will touch someone and improve their quality of life just a little bit. And then if you are handy, fix things around their house. But not everyone is handy. I could never do that. But I certainly could lend an ear. I could certainly go get someone groceries. I could
Mhm.
say, how can I help? I have some
Right.
time on Saturday. What can I do that would be helpful? And don't say nothing because I know you need some help.
And
You're
that's what
not.
Vanessa said, is that a lot of people
Mm,
say, "Call me if you need something." And that doesn't help because Nona will never call anyone. If you see something, just do it. That was what really resonated with me too, is don't just wait. Oh, well, I already asked them, check, and they didn't want anything. Of course, most people won't say they need something. But to your point, if you see something, the trash can out, something small, these little things create a ripple effect and can change the trajectory of someone's day and make it that much brighter. And these little acts, exactly how you were saying, and don't ask, don't wait, just do them. And I love that she said that because I think a lot of people have great intention of doing it, but they don't follow through. We have to notice and then we have to act. It's got to be two parts, right?
yes, and when my mom was really sick, some things that were very touching to me is some friends dropped off meals at my house, like
Oh,
completely
nice.
unsolicited. And remember, I wasn't the ill person,
Right,
but they were recognizing, Erica probably can use a little bit of help here. Because I
right.
was working, I have kids, I had
Yeah,
mental health issues in my family that I was also dealing with. So I was being pulled in a variety of ways. And I'm not going to go public about that.
right,
So,
right.
and in my case, my mom asked my sister and I not to say
Ah,
that she was ill because she was, I don't know what, whatever the emotions that she was feeling, embarrassed, or she didn't want to upset people around. So my sister and I had to just tell very, very, very few people. And so we were saddled with a lot of responsibility. I don't have an
mhm.
iota of regret for the amount of time that we spent with my mom helping her. I mean, it was one of the best times of my life in a weird way. However, those little
It-
moments where my friends would say, "You want to FaceTime with me and have a drink?" And I would laugh and cry with them.
yes,
Those moments are priceless. And that's a kind of generosity. It doesn't have to be something that
big,
costs money, right?
right.
It doesn't have to be big and it doesn't have to cost money. It's those small acts of kindness that
Mm.
change someone's life. And you're right about the ripple effect. Because when you do something kind for somebody, it fills them up. And I'm guessing that they will share it with someone else in their life. And I
Pay it
had that,
forward.
yes, and I had that happen. I have a cottage near Lindsay, Ontario, and I went in to get a coffee one day, and a guy turned around and said, "I'd like to buy you a coffee."
Ah,
And it was just out of the blue for no reason. And I was so touched. I said, no, it's fine. It's okay. You don't have to buy me a coffee. No, I really want to, I just want to make your day. And here I am. This was 6 months ago. I remember it. And I remember
Funny,
my heart constricting, like, I'm gonna cry.
right,
It was
and it
so
was so
touching.
small.
Mhm,
Right, and it's funny, you don't remember what they said or what they did, but you remember how
mhm.
you felt about it. So, but being May and National Caregivers, you know what I found really interesting? Statistic about young caregivers, which blew my mind that there's over 1 million of them in Canada from age 24 or 14 to 24, and they put in an average of 20 hours per week, which is equivalent to a part-time job. And what a heavy load, in addition to being a kid, for starters, probably going to school and having a job. Um, what what a challenge, and what a heavy load for these kids. How can we help them?
Well, it's very interesting that you brought up that story because a few weeks ago, we did another undercover act of kindness.
Oh,
And the nominator um, nominated her fiance. His name is
Terrence.
Terrence, and he has been caring for his brother Torrance, who has MS.
Mm,
And, it is physically, you see Torrance, and he's in a wheelchair and he's mostly paralyzed. And I spent the day with them. And I have to say, I was intimidated at first. I actually didn't understand that the disease doesn't affect the brain. So
mhm.
Torrance, he's a rockin' cool guy. He just couldn't use and can't use his body.
Mhm.
His brother has been caring for Torrance since he was very young. He's grown up with it, and when his mom died, he has become the main caregiver. It affected the kind of school he went to. He wouldn't leave his brother. It affected the kind of job he's taken. He has to do some sort of a work from home something or other. And he's given up a lot of his own personal joy. And it was beautiful to see that his girlfriend, soon to be, or fiance, also is a caregiver. They met online, and she's
Oh,
caring for her mom who has dementia. And so these are
wow.
two very beautiful, kind people who found each other and can now support each other. And it's a beautiful thing to see. And, how do you support a young person? The same way that you would support an old person is, how can I help? And I think perhaps how you can help also is to help with some of the bureaucracy.
Mm,
Help them solve the problem of getting additional support. You can download a booklet. This is
mm,
important. The Ontario Caregiver Organization is there to help. It's a charity to support caregivers and their friends and family. So if you know a caregiver who can use some support, you can download a booklet from the Ontario Caregiver Organization. It's ontariocaregiver.ca. And there's a ton of ideas in there
nice.
to help people like you and me who are not caregiving right now, but may know people who are in that
Mhm.
situation and do some of the brain work for them. It also has a lot of ideas on how you can help physically, the things that you can,
Mhm,
just
mhm.
do for them, but also some of the brain work that they're saddled with, sort of the emotional and bureaucratic responsibility that these people have to deal with. So if you're good at that kind of stuff, you
Right.
can help them in that way as well.
And you know what I noticed about Terrence and Torrance, is how grateful he was. He has a TikTok, and every day he says, day, whatever it is, gratitude. And he picks out one or two things and is grateful for them. And I was so taken back because I think in that position, sometimes you'd have to really look hard for everything you're grateful. But yet, in all his busyness and selflessness, there's always gratitude.
Well, what's interesting is he had to go through deep therapy to get there.
Uh,
And
okay.
that was part of his therapy because he was, I don't know if the word is angry,
Hmm.
but he had a lot of,
Resentful.
sure, he had a lot of negative emotion. And thank God he's human to admit it and to say
Hmm.
it, because why wouldn't he feel resentment? You can feel two things at once. That's life is
And both are
dialectical.
true.
You
Yeah.
can, exactly. And so he started to do a lot of work on himself. And so it was like a private journey for him to do these little gratitude TikToks that have really caught on, and it's very touching. I hope that people follow him. He's Terrence Ho, Ho, and they're beautiful, and they remind all of us to look at the positives in our life. It doesn't negate the negatives, but
Right.
it starts to shift to a more positive mindset. And also what you're doing with this podcast is so important.
Oh, thank you.
More people need to talk about the good stuff, not the
Mm.
bad stuff, because we always focus on what we think about and what we do. It's like when you're driving a car, wherever you look is where the car is going to go.
Ah,
So it's very important that we talk about kindness and the effect it has on people and the kinds of things that we can do that are easy for us, that can make a difference in the world. And if we all do something kind every day, you're right, there is a ripple effect.
so
That's
you've
why
interviewed hundreds of musicians. Resonated with you of being the kindest?
there's a lot of them, actually.
Because I bet you have a
Um,
lot of stories.
yeah, that's a really good question. No one's ever asked me that, but I would say Um, I think kindness is connected to self-awareness.
Mm.
And so I would say Sting was probably the most self-aware person that I spoke to. He
He set you
really
up for success and made you shine, like he knew what you needed and gave it back?
Oh yeah, well he was a great interview, but I just think in his life that he wants to make the world a better place.
Ah,
So I think that he acts with self-awareness himself.
any Canadians that come to mind? There's so many kind Canadians.
Well, it's interesting. I would say my favorite band back in the day was 5440.
Ah,
And the lead singer, Neil Osborne, is full on involved in all kinds of charities and not for profits. So he was doing that at the same time as he was the face of this rock band. And and it's not a surprise that I was attracted to him and his band because they were just the coolest. And for me, cool again is self-aware and not an asshole. They didn't have
right.
to be jerks and break guitars and insult their audience. They just put on a great show and were very positive.
And people
They rocked it.
gravitate to that.
Yeah, and they rocked out. So they were super cool.
Wow.
I
Well,
think there's a lot
Erica,
of Canadians. Sorry, I think Sarah McLachlan is another kind person. She actually started a school to help. It's on the West Coast for young musicians. So I think it's like the Sarah McLachlan School of Music or something like that. So these people who have experienced great success give back, and it's a
inspire
beautiful.
other Canadians to be kind
Mhm.
because if they have the time, um, the inspiration is there. So we need to be inspired and get involved. So, Erica, thank you so much for showing us that small acts of kindness can make a world of difference. If there's a caregiver in your world, show them some love, do something kind for them, notice and act and acknowledge them. And this is where entertainment and charity meet.